The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed. Now it's time for Spotlight Star Wars with your host, Ken Napzok.
That's right, my friends. It's time for another edition of Spotlight Star Wars. Mostly a monologue from me to you, Star Wars fan to Star Wars fan. But we had so much fun last time out with Lauren Romo of the Galactic broadcast there, the Galactic podcast, talking about her experiences at Star Wars Celebration in 2019, which was her first celebration, and then what she thinks going in. We provided some, what I hope are some helpful tips for first-time Star Wars Celebration or just even first-time convention goers. And in that spirit, we wanted to talk about a great event that is happening at Star Wars Celebration and then bring in the people behind it. Every once in a while, I might make a reference to this wonderful production that's had a wonderful, at times, torrid history. I'm kidding. We'll get the whole story there. No, it's been this wonderful, wonderful project that's been around, like I said, for over 20 years now, called the Star Wars Trilogy in 30. At one point, when I saw it, called the Star Wars Trilogy in 60, and we're going to get a little bit behind that story as well. But they are reuniting. It's a big deal. 20 years after the first performance at Star Wars Celebrations in 2002, they are going to be performing at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim in 2022, Friday night, 6 p.m. on the fan stage. Please welcome two of the creative forces behind it and one person that doesn't really realize that by casting the other person in the production led to him and I being friends. So it is Patrick T Gorman and returning to Force Center, Mark Reilly. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show and welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Good to be back, Ken. Hello, everybody at Force Center.
It's good to have you here. And one of the reasons I want to do the show, number one, I love the show. I haven't seen the Star Wars trilogy or Star Wars in 60 myself. And that was the first night I officially actually met this Mark Reilly guy that my friend Christian Harloff had always been saying, oh, you should meet Mark. That was the night I met him. So we're going to go talking to the history of it. And one of the reasons I wanted to is some of our Force Center listeners saw a tweet from Mark Reilly because, of course, they follow him. And they were like, hey, Ken, what is this thing? So, Patrick, we're going to start with you. What is this thing?
Well, it's a goofy play we came up with in 1995 when we were students at USC in the theater program, not the much more esteemed film program. And so we were the previous summer, myself and some friends had done the 15-minute Hamlet, which was a Tom Stopper play, which reduced Hamlet down to 15 minutes. And as part of a class where you could sort of do productions where you direct and stuff like that. But usually there wasn't something that was generated by students or written by students. And I had this idea that I'd just done 15-minute Hamlet. What is America's Hamlet? And that's clearly Star Wars. All the father issues, ghosts, the whole shebang. Hamlet is Star Wars. Actually, Star Wars is much better than Hamlet. We got spaceships and all that junk.
Yeah.
But we did it there as sort of like a joke because I grew up as a dorky kid in Nebraska loving, Star Wars beyond belief. It's not like it is now where everybody sort of knows Star Wars and likes Star Wars. Back then it was a deeply uncool thing that, especially in Nebraska where everything was about football and hyper masculinity, and I was a dorky Star Wars kid. So I wrote this thing and everybody in the class was excited to do it. And we still have the original Princess Leia we had in it then is the Princess Leia we still have now, who's just fantastic, Maya Peters. And it's been like the beating heart of the show for the past, billion years that we've been doing it. And it's just been this sort of fun, weird thing that's continued to grow well after it should have. I mean, it was just because it's basically 10, 11 people running around on stage, pretending to be Han, Luke, and Leia. I pretend to be Yoda and jump around on my knees and put my hands by my ears and create little hand ears out of it. And we have like wiffle sabers. We have X-Wing fighters that are flipped over, chairs over people's heads with little flashlights. I think it's basically the idea is like everything you did as a kid playing Star Wars, but seeing people who are not kids doing it in the goofiest of ways, and not taking, I mean, we aren't adding anything. It's the dialogue is all there unless we mess it up. And it's the straight up original trilogy. And then when you saw us, we did, the prequels, and we're hoping, in the future that we do, the saga in 90. We've already started some work on that, and then we can throw in all kinds of other stuff. Because when you saw the 60, we even threw in the holiday special, which was good fun to be lumpy. That was the highlight of my career.
It doesn't get any better. This is a wonderful story because, you're talking about something that, I want to say it was started as a joke, but just like a big what if, and what if we do this fun thing, and and here it is 25 plus years later, or ish, we can fudge the time. It's still a part of you, and that's speaks to the power of Star Wars, but also to your own creativity. And I just love hearing that part of that story too. It was there, and it's still there for good reason.
Well, thank you. We got lucky. We had a professor who didn't know much about Star Wars. This really old Obi-Wan, but more crotchety, and probably would be canceled several times over in this era, and rightfully so. But he saw something special in it, and then we were able to talk to George Lucas's professor over at the School of Cinema, who then vouched for us to Lucasfilm, and then we got to take it to Edinburgh, and then it's just continued on in this weird form where me and my friends get to goof around every few years.
Yeah, and there's some fun things I want to talk about during a lot of this era. We're jumping around a bit, but a little bit later on, you add this young upstart screenwriter, USC film student, a big, bright future named Mark Reilly. He joins the cast. Mark, I want to jump to you. When did you first find out, and how did you get involved? And then, Patrick, I want to hear from you why you decided, this kid's all right.
Yeah, Patrick, I've told you this story. You don't remember as well as me, but I was a freshman when I saw it originally at USC, and I was insanely jealous of every single member on the stage. And I went, how in the hell did I miss this? This is my thing, Star Wars. I need to be a part of it. Alas, I couldn't be a part of it. It was something that missed me because it was all experimentals. It was people older, seniors, whatnot. And I went about my way, and I graduated USC. But it was in 2001 that one of the alumni from the original play, Joe Town, was taking it to Edinburgh again years later, and we were going to stop off in Paris. And so, as part of the alumni, I joined the production. And then joined as the Emperor. And I did a run over there. Fell in love with it. I was so happy to be a part of it. And then, Patrick, I heard that you guys were asked by Lucasfilm to do it at Celebrations 2 for Attack of the Clones. And I went, now is my chance. I kind of know Patrick. I got your number from Joe Town, and I called you, and I left a message. And I said, I will do anything to be a part of this. I will be an Ewok. If you need a tree on Endor, I will be that. I will do whatever it takes. And you're like, yeah, sure, show up. Just come on by. It's the way I remember it. And you didn't have an Obi-Wan at the time. And so I just said, I can read it. And then you looked at me and went, yeah, you're Obi-Wan. And I've been there ever since. That was 2002.
It was a great read too. Like, you immediately had Obi-Wan, and it was just fantastic. And then I think you're the one that sort of merged Obi-Wan and Emperor into one. Which was one of the fun things. We've gotten so lucky with, talent like this coming in, because Mark does some hilarious things that, weren't part of my original writing or directing. He took some leaps there that I dig the hell out of, and that's the fun of the show. It's just like, again, we've gotten very lucky with a very talented, like all along, a very talented cast that, will challenge me on things or suggest things. And if it works, it works.
Yeah.
And Mark was one of those ones where it's like, oh, this is great. And at the same time, we had Lee Goodoff was brought in the same situation as he's our current 3PO. She was brought in from another friend. It's like, yeah, come on, be part of it. And then these two have been with the show, since 2002, like no stopping. It's great. Cause again, it's rare to have people that are this talented, but are just quality human beings. Cause usually we're all garbage. But
in this town,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know, Patrick. I mean, I did blatantly rip off your Yoda ears to use for my own impression during the Schmoes No era.
Yes, with a sort of blessing. So, fair play to you,
Yeah. It was one of those things, though. Ken knows when we were a part of that Schmoes No crew and we did the impressions, and I was doing Yoda, it just instinctively happened because of my years in the
Yeah.
And I went, I'm going to have to call Patrick and just tell him I just completely ripped off
Yeah.
his bit.
If you're an old school Schmoes fan, there's somebody still out there. That's where Mark Yodi Reilly comes from, him doing that. And
There it is.
the guest getting the name wrong.
Yeah.
I do want to go to a little bit to the creative process, and I know this starts with you, Patrick, and Mark. You come on a little bit later. And actually, first, I want to do, Patrick, when you take a first look at this kid doing Palpatine, did you connect with the evilness inside Riley, or what was it?
Yeah, I could see that. Well, and that's why we have him do both Obi-Wan and Palpatine to sort of even it out.
Yeah,
You
I have
know,
a
but
foot
again,
in either in both practices. So
exactly. And his Palpatine is so great because again, when we did the 60 and did the prequels, I mean, the prequels are all about Palpatine. He's the one driving force in those things,
Yeah.
and nobody chews scenery better than Mark Reilly. And he made certain choices that absolutely killed, and again was the driving engine of that whole set of the 60. Because again, Palpatine's the only one really kind of doing anything.
Yeah. He has layers, man, in those prequels. Layer upon layer of ultimate power.
Yes.
The unlimited power. I do kind of remember that beat in the show. That's amazing. Love it. But yeah, to go back to the beginning, I know you come up upon the process a little bit later, Mark, but as I'm hearing Patrick describe it as a writer and director, it is about kind of releasing the property and allowing other voices coming in and just asking those big, hey, why not and what if kind of questions that are important to creativity. When you're sitting down with this great idea, Patrick, and something you know and love so much, Star Wars, to get it down to 30 minutes, that's a great gimmick. That's a great thing, but that's can't be easy because you're leaving some beautiful moments maybe on the cutting room floor or trying to squish it all together. How did you pick the right moments and find the essence of all the scenes? Take me through some of that process.
Well, I think the process at the time was just again continuing to whittle it down and seeing what we could do and play with. Because there's certain things that we just felt like, okay, we can't do that. We have to go back and forth. What things we want to hit, like things that they repeat a lot. We wanted to make sure, like Hana was saying sister, or, I have a bad feeling about this, like recurring motifs that go throughout the show that are like fun that we can then play with and do things with. But overall, we wanted the story also to be there for anybody who hasn't seen Star Wars, that they would get enough of it with what we cut it down to, that they could sort of add up what the essential story of the whole thing was, even if they weren't sci-fi fans. And we've had a fair amount of people throughout the years. When we did Edinburgh, when we did it here, when we did it at the Cornet, we had Fran Drescher come one night with her boyfriend who was really into Star Wars, and she was laughing through the whole thing and didn't know anything about Star Wars. So if because you might notice her laugh in an audience for some reason or other, it came down to what sort of made sense. And the thing is, now I don't know that I would do the same thing I did back then, or maybe make some of the same choices I did. And I've been looking at it this time around, just going, oh, that's interesting. Because it's like, I'm like a whole different person because I was a kid then, and I'm definitely not a kid now. And it is sort of amazing to go, oh yeah, that actually works. I guess I was sort of smart once in my life, and that sort of makes sense. And I understand why I didn't have like an extensive, AT-AT battle scene, which I've all sort of noticed is not there, but it's just I didn't have a way to do it, but it's not needed. The way that we've done it, is sort of smooth and for some reason kind of works. It's one of those things that when you're a kid in college and there's really no pressure with it. I mean, there was pressure I put on myself. It was able to be this sort of free fun thing, and I was about ready to kill the whole thing like a couple weeks before it went up because it just felt like it wasn't working. It just
Thank God
like,
you
there's
didn't.
no way. Yeah. And Maya, our heart of the show, our Princess Leia, said, no, it's, it's one of those things where we got to do it. We put this one in, trust me, it's good. And we did. And then it just built into this thing, and again, it's so weird because again, there's ways when I'm doing Yoda, so much of this is just because back when I was a kid, the VHS thing was just starting. And you lived Star Wars in a whole different way than kids do now. It was the books, and I had a record, which was the not just there was the record, which wasn't the soundtrack. It was like the actual, dialogue and stuff from the film. And it was like a big 33. And I listened to that over and over again. So any of my Yoda business is really me hitting the same rhythm that I remember from hitting that record when I was 7 or 8 years old. And so, it's a weird thing.
I have that record. I found it in a record shop in Burbank.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
I remember having it. Yep.
Yeah, I forget the gentleman that does the narration. I knew him because he appeared on, of all things, The Cosby Show as a kid. That's how I have a relationship to him. It's spectacular. And I love that stuff because, Patrick, you've already described it a couple times as the heart of this show, Star Wars Trilogy in 30 Minutes and 60, is the way you experience Star Wars as a kid. And you're right, it is on the playground. It is with the figures. It is boiling it down to the essentials and what stands out. And you guys put it all together in this wonderful, tremendously fast-paced show. That is not a lie. Star Wars in 30 is not a lie. It's truth in advertising. And it does really have that spirit of a kid-like love for Star Wars, which is an important thing. It's something that I believe as a Star Wars fan, that Star Wars might be best understood by adults, but it's most loved by kids. And that's about what's in your heart, and not putting obstacles in front of it. And so it's a great way to approach it. And I love what you're sharing about the creative process here.
Patrick, has it ever changed just the dialogue? I won't say some of the blocking or the cast, but the dialogue. Has it changed since the early inception, or even because I remember getting it in 2001 and then doing it with you finally in 2002, and I've been doing it since then. I don't remember it changing at all, other than adding the saga 60.
There's been a couple lines here and there, like if people are certain characters they've advocated, like we've added the Boba Fett, he's no good to me dead, I think was a fairly recent, in the past 10-20 years. And there's a couple here and there, and then there's also a couple lines here and there taken out, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not intentionally.
Right.
But it's still pretty much 99% what's there, and what has I mean, the staging and sometimes some of the jokes and the way we do certain things continues to grow. I was very lucky that when we did it first here in Los Angeles at USC, I directed it, and then I directed it for its world premiere in Edinburgh. But then after it, we had like 3 extraordinary directors, because I wasn't going back to Edinburgh again. It's a beautiful, wonderful place, but it's like you go through that once, it ripped me inside out, because it was I wrote 3 plays. I performed in 5 and directed 2. Like even did like Reservoir Dogs adapted and directed, and it was just it broke me. But the other directors,
I did the Paris version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. And so I got lucky with Joe Town, Howard Yates, and Jason Major. These 3 extraordinary guys with their own ideas and own visions, and 2 of them had been in it from the beginning. Orlando Calrissian and R3PO. And through the process, they've added so much to it that I can sort of pinpoint. It's like, oh, I would like to take credit for that joke, but that's not me. That's somebody else. And same thing with our Jabba. The whole Jabba joke, which is one of the biggest laughs we have in the show, is entirely because of the guy who played it in Edinburgh, which is Michael Cornacchia. He came up with the whole bit, and originally we had, doing it in a class, you only have the only actors you have are the people who are in the class. And so we had like an attractive sorority gal as Jabba the Hutt, and it was just what we had and what we did. And but when we went to Edinburgh, we have this comedic dynamo in Michael Cornacchia, who just killed it, and it's like the biggest joke I'll have in anything, and I can't even properly take credit for it.
Yeah, Cornacchia is a whirlwind of comedic force. So, Mark, by the time you joined, yes, it's a well-oiled machine, but there's obviously it's an ongoing process, as Patrick's explaining. And what as a Star Wars fan first, and a fan of this, what drew you to this project other than just jealousy, apparently? But was it just hitting on the heart of Star Wars for you, and that's what spoke to you?
It is that heart. It is that being a child again. Even as we've been putting this together now, this new run over the past month in a whirlwind.
Yeah.
And we've just been finally getting on our feet. And it's like, I know we make fun of ourselves, Patrick. We're like, we're old. But then I'm like jumping up and down going, oh my God. There is this energy to it. And the reason I asked about the changes in it, because it does feel like lightning in a bottle, in that it so encapsulates what it felt like for me as a kid playing Star Wars on the playground. Yeah. I remember cueing my friends, telling them, no, you have to say it this way, and then I'm going to be Han Solo, and I'm going to look back and go, hey, it's me. And then we're going to go get the speeder bikes over here. And that feels like Star Wars Trilogy in 30 Minutes with Patrick and our fam.
Yeah.
It just, like, you get the lightsaber that's a wiffle ball bat. I'm throwing a carpet around my head and I'm Obi-Wan. And then I'm running across stage and flipping it around and it's black and I'm going out in the audience and I'm the Emperor now. And I get to pretend that I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, one of my favorite characters of all time. So that there's that connection too. But then I get to just find that deliciousness of the Emperor and know that I love Star Wars for all its layers and all its characters. So you're hitting all those moments. I mean, there's so many reasons. I mean, I can go on for hours.
Yeah.
It just is just so much fun. And then as a theater major, as a performer, as a creator, when you hear that laugh of Star Wars fans in Celebration, when they get it, when there's those little Easter eggs that even Patrick has made sure remains, even when the special edition with George Lucas changed it, those are the things that the Star Wars diehards, the people that love going and love Star Wars, period, will get this. This is their, I don't know, what is, we've been making some references that we're the Beatles on the roof right now. I don't, that's a little too
that's
much.
A little too far.
Too far, but it feels like getting on and just celebrating and doing something special.
It's something that I apologize to Force Center listeners. I say this a lot. I look at Star Wars and fandoms, no matter what age, no matter what era, no matter your entry point. It is a shared, unique experience. Meaning, you kind of think you're the only one experiencing it until you run into someone who's like, "You love Wedge Antilles too? Oh my God!" I thought I was the only one. Now, and Patrick touched upon it. It's a little different now. We are all way more connected. Things travel, information travels a lot faster. That I get, but I still think at the core, it's that same thing. And maybe now the jokes just become shared on social media. So yeah, it is a little line. He's no good to me dead. All that kind of stuff. That's something that watching your VHS tape alone in your room when you're growing up, you're like, I love that line. And then years later, you find someone else who loves it too. And I think that's the spirit of the play, having seen it myself. And that's kind of the spirit of the people in the audience watching it. They're getting that.
Yeah, we always hope so. Because I mean, we're doing it in very selfish ways where, we're out there having fun. This is something we like. We think we would enjoy this if watching it. But it's always phenomenal when we hear the audience go nuts about bits and pieces, or we hit something exactly right, or something we do slightly different, but like highlight something goofy in the trilogy, hits right, or even I mean, like Mark's saying, it's not really that much of a secret. I mean, we make a big point about when Greedo goes in with Han Solo. I've said not only is there Greedo not shooting first, Greedo's not even raising the gun. We're making sure that it is very clear. Han shot, and it's not even a first situation. Han shot. Greedo didn't shoot at all. And, I appreciate Mr. Lucas, changing things around because that's the way he felt. But again, it's like there's one thing with special effects. There's one thing they could have had Greedo shoot first back then. That wasn't like a special effect because they had Han shoot him. So that's a different sort of moralistic choice that I think doesn't befit Han, because that's part of Han's growth as a character. That's part of his arc, that he isn't just a straight up killer. He becomes,
which is what I noticed. Which is what I noticed doing Star Wars Trilogy in 30 minutes, and I noticed it this time when we had that beat with Greedo, and we all laughed, and we're doing the play. I started to track all the blocking with Han as he shoots first throughout.
Yeah,
shoots the stormtrooper first, shoots this first, shoots. It is always that character, and it's wonderful that is present in the script with character as well, not just story.
Yeah, we could go. Yeah, it's a sense of survival, something he's had his whole life, had to have his whole life. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm going to be in the audience hoping you've added Maclunkey, but that's just going to be my own.
We can do it privately for you over the phone. I mean, like after the show, something we can arrange something with a Maclunkey postscript. But yeah.
I'll get it in there somewhere as a sound effect, I guess.
Yeah, please, for me. We're not quite done yet. For those listening, though, I want to remind you again: Friday night, Star Wars Celebration, 6 p.m. Fan stage, Star Wars Trilogy in 30 minutes is what we're talking about, and you really should carve out some time to go see it. I know Celebration is full of a lot of cool things you want to get to, and a lot of cool things and a lot of choices. This one, again, truth in advertising. It's a quick experience, but it's a memorable one, and it's funny. And I'm going to be swinging by. I hope you're all there. There's some great stuff around this, the history of it, the performance of it, going back to the early days of Star Wars Celebration or Celebrations 1 and 2 and all that kind of stuff. This leads up to some great moments of certain people that have been in the audience of the show. I want to get to that, but I also want to go back to the beginning. We are getting ready here at Force Center for Star Wars Celebration 2022. Patrick, Mark, take me back to the first time you were at like this crazy idea of a convention for Star Wars, gathering of fans for Star Wars. What were the early days like, Grandpa?
Well, we first got invited to Celebrations too, by Steve Sansweet. Like he had heard of the show, hadn't seen it, and Steve
Great
Sansweet
man.
is the. I mean, his place is called Rancho Obi-Wan. He is the Obi-Wan of Star Wars fandom. I mean, just the best guy on earth. And so he invited us out, and we went to C2, and it was incredible because we didn't know what it'd be like, because obviously C1 in Denver was an even smaller affair.
Right.
But C2 felt pretty big and really cool. We knew Carrie Fisher was there, and we knew like all this sort of stuff was going on. But we didn't know how people would react to us. And like from moment one, which was amazing, we had lines outside the door. And then once the show started, we had more lines outside the door waiting for the next show a couple hours later. And then sometimes, and what we ended up doing is like we would end up, because again, these fans waited a long time, and it stinks that, you know, we were in too small a room to play to the people that wanted to see it. We would do another show like right afterwards. All right, you've all waited here. You've been super cool. Just wait for 30 minutes. Let's do the show. Get the other people out. We'll get you in. You shouldn't have to suffer because, you know, you waited, and it just was the situation it was. But I mean, it felt very, because it was Indianapolis. It felt very sort of. It felt big, but also small in a way, which was great. It was very friendly, and you could meet fans. And then when we went to Celebration 3, I mean, which was, you know, slightly bigger, but still in Indianapolis, it was great because, you know, more people knew who we were. And like, there were people like my cast likes to go to the bar and drink. I am not that guy.
I resemble that comment.
Yeah. And so like fans would come up and start joking with them. And then we have friends now to this day, like the filmmaker Nick Simon, the comics artist Tony Fleece, who's just phenomenal. If you've ever seen Stray Dogs, which came out last year, it's just one of the best, most extraordinary comics you can ever lay your hands on. Like those two guys were two guys from the Midwest that just were out in Indianapolis, was giving my cast crap in the bar. And then they came out here, and it's lifelong friends. And there's other friends and other fans that we've met through that. And again, I think that was sort of the magic of C2 and 3, because it did feel sort of still very, it felt big, but also homey at the same time. It felt like you could approach certain people. And we had like the lead singer of Filter, like approach us in a restaurant and get his picture taken with us. And it was just this fun kind of cool thing where, you know, you never knew what was going to happen. And it was great. We even I think in C3, we went to some bar after the convention, which had a lot of the people who had like one or two lines in Empire Strikes Back hanging out, and you know, it was great to hear these old guys just complaining about it. And it was fantastic. So yeah.
Ken will love this. My favorite thing, Patrick, was when Steve Sansweet would take us back to the area before they released the special celebration action figure. And they would give us like literally boxes, and it's like, just grab one. And I just,
we still had to pay for it. It wasn't free, but yeah.
Oh, it wasn't free or anything, but you would just be able to get it before. And of course I have them still, because
which is cool, because we weren't going to, we were doing like 4 or 5 shows a day. We didn't have the opportunity to go and get stuff. So it was very kind of Steve to do that. And Steve was always great. I mean, he's the one that, you know, sort of re-energized the interest in the show. And then it was after that at C2 that, you know, we sort of went, I kind of got a bug up my rather large butt to say, we have this thing, let's ride this and see if we can actually go and perform it at Skywalker Ranch. It's like, it's probably not going to happen, but let's just try and do it. And so we pushed and asked Steve and said, hey, is this a thing you all be interested in? And he goes, yeah. And he set it up so that we performed it at Skywalker Ranch for George Lucas and everybody there. And then the next day we performed it at ILM. And it was just incredible because, again, first off, George Lucas has the softest hands you will ever imagine. I mean, it's really supple and fantastic. And his hair, as a bald man, his hair is the most beautiful hair you will ever see on a man's head. I mean, it's so luxurious. It's it's amazing. But again, it was cool just to do this weird thing that's sort of in honor of this guy. But there's there's a few takes in it that are poking a little bit, and just to see him laughing and enjoying it, and then talking to us for a long time afterwards, that was super cool. And again, all because of Steve Sansweet.
And he kept coming to the ILM shows a day later,
George did, or yeah,
George
George.
did. He snuck in at one point to watch it again at the back of ILM. Isn't that right, Patrick?
Yeah, I believe so. And and
And
and
it
then
brought
and
his
then we yeah.
he brought his son or his daughter. I can't remember. I thought that was what I remember, but I might be mixing it up with other times.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
because we got invited back like a few years later too to do something connected to some promotion thing, and that's where the picture we have with George Lucas came from. It was this
Yeah.
crazy,
At the Presidio, finally.
yeah, at the Presidio, which they had
for
just
Revenge.
bought, and they had this weird like Jabba cantina interior with contortionists and lighting and all kinds of weird stuff. It was super cool. Like we did
Yeah.
our little show in like a little conference, like in a conference room, like 200 people or so,
that's
and then they had this big party afterwards. It was great.
Yeah, no, you guys are talking about some wonderful things here. Just going back to the celebration stuff there. I think even though it's changed over the years and whatnot, and definitely gotten bigger and everything, and these are events. Even San Diego Comic-Con is an event, and studios look forward to these days, and they plan marketing around them. That's big, but the community remains strong and remains intimate, and I think that's still present. So I like hearing that story that was present there. Now, and I've seen that picture of George. I didn't know. I thought that was the only time. I loved that this was I think I forgot the detail that that was the second time around George. I don't want you guys to share any details of wonderful private conversations you had with George that you earned, but that's pretty cool. There's no denying it's George, and to be around George would probably knock your socks off a bit. Mark, for a little Star Wars kid playing in the backyard by himself, what did that mean to you to talk to George?
God, I was running around Lucas Skywalker Ranch that whole time, saying this is a dream come true. This is a dream come true. Like I just thought that the world was endless in front of me. I was like, I met George Lucas. I mean, I'll never write a Star Wars movie, but I am here connected somehow. Yeah. And then I'll never forget. The play is so charming and so much fun because of you don't know where we're coming from. Yeah. There's somebody back there. There's somebody running over here, and I was able to do my Obi-Wan and get a beat on George doing the play. So I'm over here going, he will learn patience. And I see the reaction from George looking around. And I said that. That was me who said that. And it's George Lucas. And, and then laughing so hard, talking and everything. And then Patrick, my favorite thing when you're like, if you need any help cutting down the movies, let me know. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. It meant the world to me. It's still one of my, I didn't know I had it on my bucket list, but there it is.
There it is. And Patrick, for you, a kid growing up in Nebraska, writes this thing to stand before the creator, capital T and capital C. Anything you took from that specifically? Did he say pay any respect to you as a writer that you just hang on the wall on a plaque, or was it just overall just a whirlwind experience?
It was a whirlwind, but again, he was just so flattering and said how funny it was. And the thing that was sort of nuts for us is like after that we did it at the Coronet in Los Angeles, and so there was a CNN reporter, this great guy David Daniel, who was doing a piece on us, and he was able to catch George Lucas at some event and ask him about our show. And so he's like saying this on camera. So I can say one thing and make up anything that George Lucas said, that, Patrick, you're the greatest writer director I've ever seen. You're the next Orson Welles, not just in weight and baldness. But it's one of those things where we have on tape him saying how funny it is, hilarious. And the greatest thing about that is it starts on a tight shot on George Lucas, and he's talking to someone, telling him how funny it is and how great it is. And then it pulls back, and he's telling that to Steven Spielberg. And it's just one of those things where, it's like to ever imagine that anything you do would be a reference point for two of the greatest filmmakers of all time, who just changed the entire game and changed the entire world. And that my thing, not only that I sort of created, is a thing that's making fun and having fun with that thing. It's so weird. It's one of those things that, there's no way anybody could have predicted it or thought. There's no way as a kid I thought, someday I'm going to keep getting to pretend to be a kid, being, not that I dreamt of being Yoda. I always dreamt of being Han Solo, but you take what you can get. But to be at my age still goofing around as a kid in front of people who are, digging it is the greatest thing.
Wonderful stuff. No, that's an amazing clip. And there's still time to do Indy in 30. We can do Indiana Jones in 30, right, boys? Maybe 29 minutes. You guys come back for the Star Wars saga in 60, which is where like I said, I saw it too. We here at Force Center absolutely love the prequels. We love diving in. We love everything about the themes and what George tried to do, but they are without a doubt full of memorable moments, maybe sometimes not for the, right reasons. If you guys all know what I mean. So putting it together, it's a different time too, not just the prequel era, but even now where so many times I think I find what I could just be laughing at, poking at fun at Star Wars because I did it as a kid too, can be weaponized. It's something we've been talking about here on Force Center a lot recently, where you can take what would be just a harmless joke and turn it into a harmful discussion point about Star Wars. And that's kind of the nature of discourse, the nature of online discussions, all that kind of stuff. But all that to say, when you're sitting down to pull out the memorable moments from the prequels, did you ride that line? Whether or not you loved them, hated them, didn't like them then, appreciate them now, I don't necessarily care about that in terms of the answer here. I just want to know, how did you approach that, Patrick, when you're like, I know there's a lot of people that don't like these and there's a generation that loves these. How did you ride that line?
Well, it was, I mean, obviously the prequels didn't mean as much to me as the original trilogy did, because, the original trilogy hit me as a kid and just sort of changed my DNA. With the prequels, though, I had kids at the time, especially my oldest, who was loving the prequels. And that was sort of a guiding force. I didn't want to do the pun, but that's what happened here. So I apologize. I'm a dad, so it's a dad joke. But I wanted to do the same thing I did with the original 30. And was make sure the story sort of would be told in a way where people could kind of get what was going on, even if they hadn't seen the films. I wanted to hit stuff that I think we could do in a funny way, that you're doing it super fast. And that's the joke from it. There's certain stuff I did want to highlight that, like some dialogue, or if done in a weird way, it you realize kind of that's silly, which is the same thing what we do with the original trilogy. But I didn't want to take, easy, pot shot jokes with it all. And what I got super lucky, we had James Mathis III, who is this phenomenal actor and voice artist who does like Black Panther, all this kind of stuff. We got him involved with the show, and he ended up doing Jar Jar, which is obviously a lightning rod for many reasons, rightfully, wrongfully, the whole shebang. And what he did with that character is he brought such a level of dignity and respect, because again, I didn't want to wade into, just a mocking, joking thing. And plus everybody's done it. So, I mean, it's just like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
But
and as a creative, it's like, you want to go to new territory, even if you're saying something.
Exactly. And so we had this actor come in, James, who was just a phenomenal actor, period. But again, he just brought this sort of thing to Jar Jar. It's like, oh, that's cool. That's a whole sort of different vibe. That's, we aren't going to go for the stupid, sort of make fun of Jar Jar joke. There's something sort of cool here. And that's, it's the same thing if we do 90. It's the same thing, where we threw in, like when we threw in the holiday special, when we did the 60, there's certain things we want to have fun with and play with, but understand that it's coming from a good place. Like none of that, even if it's making fun of a certain bit of dialogue or delivery that the actor does, or even, the whole Luke Skywalker saying Carrie, that kind of thing. It's those things that we're doing with the best of intentions and the best of humor, because again, we're living in a world, whichever side you're on, I think we can all agree is pretty toxic and pretty rough for everybody. And to add to that meanness is not something we want to do. We're just out there to have fun and do our little goof, and have fun with Star Wars in a way that hopefully everybody can walk away from feeling like they were entertained.
Yeah. I love that answer, Patrick. I really love that answer. No one should want to add to the meanness. That's a great way to live life and write your Star Wars plays.
Yeah, that's why I like Patrick.
Yeah.
Why I constantly want to hang with him, do Star Wars and other things.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I saw it, and I remember, I saw it in about, do you remember what year that was, Mark? It was before the Schmoes podcast really launched properly. So it was probably late 2011, 2012 range, right? Am I remembering that right?
When we did
2012.
The yeah, 12.
That makes sense.
Around that time, yeah, because we went to, that was when I felt the Star Wars saga, sure, but we got the big theater, and it was like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah,
my gosh, that's like, I mean, it went from like 200, 500, 100 at Coronets and so on to like 2,500 or something at that
In
last
Orlando it was
convention.
2,500 a night, and we
Yeah.
packed it every night. And then there was
Packed it
also the
every
time we did
night.
Comic-Con. We did Comic-Con where
That's
and
right.
that was 4,000. So
Yeah.
that was super cool. And again,
So fun.
just one of the weird benefits of getting to do a goofy play like this is just like I never thought, get in free to Comic-Con to do a goofy show.
Right.
That's a perk.
We all grew up nerds by ourselves, not knowing that would be a good asset to our existence later on in life. Mark, for you at that time, you and I talk a lot via text and phone conversations off air about our relationship with the prequels. And I mean it when I say it. I love those three films. Loved everything George did in them, warts and all, but I wasn't always there. I wasn't always seeing what was there. But you share a similar story to me, I know.
Yeah.
In seeing that, was there anything about what Patrick and everyone put together for Star Wars in 60 that was able to highlight something that, like he's saying with James's performance of Jar Jar, that's a different angle on it, a different way to approach it, or a different joke. And it wasn't just the same pot shots. It wasn't just the same bad critiques or bad faith, pizza roll based critiques. It is. Did you come out of it, enjoying parts of the prequels that at the time you hadn't seen before, only because you got to see these boiled down elements?
Yeah, it's again just like he did with Star Wars 30. Grabbing the heart of the story is key for this thing. And you might want to include the Battle of Hoth, Patrick, or even certain things from the prequels that we're talking about. But when you walk away from that one, for me, I got to chew the scenery as Emperor, and I love that. And so getting into that kind of story, when you realize it is him, that inspires my whole sense of story just as a writer, where I can look at the prequels differently going, Phantom Menace, when that title came out, a lot of us went, huh? But then when you look at the history of Lucas and what he did in the movies that he grew up with, the Flash Gordons and the serials, you hear Phantom Menace, you go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. You watch the movie, it's completely different than the original trilogy. It's something to over and through the play. You see that story. You hear the stories of what Lucas was trying to do, and you see the characters step forward and go, this makes so much more sense to me. And then you have the conversations there where just our own Star Wars family having kids, Patrick, they're watching the prequels and growing up with it. Ken, you and me connecting in a way over our love of Star Wars across the board, and then meeting fans of the prequel era when we talk about it, whether it's on Force Center or my own Riley's Cantina or back at Collider on Schmoes. No, we have so many fans, and it's there in Star Wars Saga and in 60. And I wish we could do it. We just didn't have the bandwidth to get it together,
I would be curious. Again, I know we're here talking about Star Wars Trilogy in 30, which will be at Star Wars Celebration. But I would be so curious if now, because even in 2012, that is a different time for the prequel generation fans. They were still young. They're still teens. They're still whatever it may be. If you were to perform it now, I bet you and your cast would not to be surprised or blown away, but probably get more out of it than you would even think by that generation reacting to the he's no good to me dead versions of the prequels that are there. You write them, you put them in, you've done your job and approach it in a great way with good intentions. Like Patrick said, I want that to happen, and I need to be there because I need to see the prequel generation go, hey, finally they get it. That would be a fun journey to
and that's why we sort of put it off for so long, because like when we did the Skywalker thing and when we did the Coronet, like George Lucas even in some like interview about it said that he wants us to do all 6 when they were done, and we didn't do it immediately when they're done because it's got to accumulate some sort of pop culture footprint, and that footprint has just grown for those prequels as the years have gone on, in the same way that the original trilogy did. Maybe not as big as the original trilogy, because again, we had like 8 movies when we were kids, and those were 3 of them. It's one of those situations where the prequels have grown, and only more so, and as we see with Obi-Wan and as we see with everything else that sort of interacts and connects with that whole thing, and even with the sequels. I mean, whether, again, I don't know that the sequels will be as embraced as the prequels are now, when the prequels were as ridiculed and lambasted during their time, but they very well might, because there's kids who were growing up with those at the right time. And there's parts of the sequels that I think are fantastic, that I absolutely love. And same thing with the prequels. And again, nothing moves my heart as much as
Yeah.
the original trilogy,
Yeah.
but I'm watching every episode of Mandalorian. I'm watching every episode of Boba Fett. I'm there. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't fully appeal to me, that's okay. There's something else coming down the pipeline. And maybe that'll be the next thing. I mean, Rogue One.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that thing is extraordinary. I love that film beyond belief. It is. It shouldn't be as good as it is, especially with the ending that it has. It is. It's a glorious film. Like every moment you meet a character, you immediately love them, and you can't say that with almost any other film.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And that's the reason Rogue One has even grown. It obviously made a lot of money and obviously was relatively well received in 2016. But I think the love for that film has grown in the 5 years now, 5-6 years, which
Even
is
more
crazy
so.
to think. Yeah, crazy to think that we're already that far removed from it. Yeah, because and I think in a lot of ways. So there we go. Rogue One in 10 will be the follow-up.
Yeah.
Well, I also wanted. I did want that. I mean, again, I might be giving away the game, but I mean, like if we do a Rogue One, I mean, it's just great because you just immediately have everybody die. And it's just like boom, 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 boom. And there we go.
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful discussion. We could talk for hours and hours. I love hearing the behind-the-scenes story here of the entire story of the show. But we are going to be wrapping up the conversation here, and I want all of you Force Center listeners. I know a lot of you are heading to Star Wars Celebration, and again, I know there's a lot of choice. I feel like a local newsman. There's a lot of local choices in your local news. Thanks for choosing us. But I really implore you, get on out to the fan stage Friday night, 6 p.m. Look, you don't have to work. You're not going to miss one of the big panels where they're going to unveil the new, Taika Waititi movie. That's going to be in the morning. You're going to want to go see this show, have a laugh, celebrate Star Wars, and head to the bars, Disneyland, Bubba Gump Shrimp, wherever you want to go. A lot of choices in it. I implore you to catch the show. It is so fun. So fun. Again, Friday, 6 p.m., fan stage, Star Wars Trilogy in 30 minutes. Patrick, Mark, thank you for coming on the show. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to say to the crowd and the audience? Hopefully the ones who will be attending at Star Wars Celebration. Patrick?
No, just thank you for having us on. This has been a blast. I've really enjoyed the heck out of it, and we hope to see a lot of people there. Please come up to us. Say if you liked it, didn't like us. You can kick Yoda in the gut, whatever. We're cool with anything.
We'll take a
we're
picture.
Just happy to
and
be
you can
there.
Punch Patrick. And
Wouldn't be the first time.
$5.
And I'll be in the crowd yelling Maclunkey until security gets me taken out. No, before the show, I would never interrupt the show.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Absolutely would do that. Mark, thank you for returning to Force Center. Always fun to talk Star Wars with you. Can't wait to see you and celebrate down there at Star Celebration. But any final thoughts for you as you head towards this big, reunion performance?
Yeah, I cannot wait. I'm being there. My world is colliding down at Celebrations. I have all my favorite people there. Ken, you're going to be there. Patrick, we're going to get to perform. And come on out the fan stage. If you do miss it, but for whatever reason, I would behoove me not to mention as a producer on this thing that we are going to have other ways to see it. Check our following on social media at Reilly Around. And at Patrick T Gorman, right? Patrick?
Yeah, that'd be probably the best way to go. Or we have stuff on Instagram, we have stuff on Facebook. But again, we're gonna do a limited run here in Los Angeles around Celebrations. So if people want to check us out, please come out and see us. You'll have a good time, and it'll be a lot of fun.
There you go, you Burbank locals or you LA locals. Go see the show and head over to Bob's Big Boy. All right. Get a burger and a shake and talk Star Wars. There you go. Follow them, as they said. Give them a follow on Twitter. Tell them Force Center sent you. And again, Friday night, 6 p.m., Star Wars Celebration fan stage. Going to be a lot of fun. Star Wars Trilogy in 60 minutes. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for letting me get excited about Celebration. These last 2 episodes of Spotlight Star Wars. We've got a big Star Wars rank coming. We are getting ready for Kenobi. Going to be a lot of fun and so many things to discuss here. So thank you for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at Force Center Pod. Don't forget, we're on Instagram, YouTube as well. Facebook page is Force Center Podcast. You can get an audiobook on us by going to audibletrial.com/Force Center. Get merch at tpublic.com/user/Force Center. And you could support us directly at patreon.com/Force Center. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Use the hashtag Spotlight Star Wars if you want to reach out directly about this episode. Go to my website, kennapzok.com, for more information on things like my book, Why We Love Star Wars, or upcoming stand-up dates like June 4th at Doug Weston's Troubadour in Los Angeles. That's it for now, my friends. We'll see you at Star Wars Celebration.